everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm John, and we're here today to talk about the 1992 comedy classic, Wayne's World. We're also here to talk about its brand new 4K Blu-ray release that just came out. But before we dive into that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, tech and game reviews, we try and do them all here on the channel, and nothing would help us out more than by you liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So Wayne's World is based on a Saturday Night Live sketch that Mike Myers himself wrote the characters before he was even on Saturday Night Live, and he brought them with him when he went to become a writer, producer, and cast member on Saturday Night Live, and he got Dana Carvey to come be his sidekick, Garth. And this was such a popular skit that Lorne Michaels decided to, you know what, why don't we make a feature-length film out of this? And that's exactly what they did. And they got Penelope Spheres, who was the director of the Decline of Western Civilization trilogy, which is basically a trilogy of films that talk about certain eras of rock music and their influence on the world. They get a lot of different rock stars to come do interviews. I actually really like part 2 where they have Ozzy Osbourne in there. And there's this one guy who's just drinking vodka in the pool, like, in front of his mother. And, you know, Penelope Spheres shot the interview while he's in the pool drinking. So they got her because I guess her influence with dealing with musicians and comedians, I believe they said. So definitely a unique choice, and she does a phenomenal job directing this movie. Mike Myers is one of the co-writers on this film. Like I said, these are characters that he wrote, so he knows exactly where they want to go. He played a big part in making this film. You know, they would always do a little bit of improv while they were on set shooting, so he would have ideas that they would end up shooting. Penelope Spheres had ideas that they ended up shooting. And you get this hodgepodge of a movie that ends up being an all-time classic comedy film, especially from the 1990s. This film reeks of early 90s. You know, the way they're talking, the music they're listening to, these are a bunch of metalheads. They just, you know, even though they have a public access show, they really are into music. They have a love for music, and the fact that they get Alice Cooper in this film is hysterical. Alice Cooper actually is my favorite part of this movie because they worship this guy, and then when they end up going to talk to him, he ends up being very smart. He has all this knowledge of Milwaukee, or Milwaukee, as they say, and they are just so thrown off by it because they don't expect these guys to be these high intelligent people. They expect them to be more in line with what they are, which is these, you know, lighthearted, you know, they're still smart, but they're a little bit doofy, a little bit goofy kind of guys. And when they get in there and they're like, oh, Alice Cooper is this really highly intelligent guy, it really throws them off. So when he's explaining how Milwaukee is named and the history of it, Wayne just points to him and goes,
does this guy know how to party or what? Huh? Huh?
Just my favorite part of this movie. And there's just a bunch of that throughout this movie, a lot of great jokes. This movie is actually, despite them never really saying it, or never really hear people talking about it, this is very much a satire just in television and filmmaking in general and how it all works, dealing with producers, directors, sponsors. Obviously, there's that classic sponsor gag in there when they were opening up, you know, Pepsi, Reebok, and Pizza Hut and everything like that. And they said they won't bend for a sponsor while they're promoting sponsors. And that's like the whole thing they're talking about. Exactly, that's how shows are made. That's how movies are made. You got to get some funding, which means you got to kind of bend to things. But they also really lean into that by breaking the fourth wall, looking at the character, the multiple endings like Clue. You know, they really leaned into the fact that this is a movie. Everyone knows they're making a movie. Everyone's having a lot of fun making a movie. And that brings me to one of my personal favorite cameos of all time in any film. Is this came out in 1992, 1 year after Terminator 2. And they get Robert Patrick, the T-1000, to make a cameo because he's still out on the prowl looking for John Connor. And it's really funny that they end up getting that little cameo out of him. Although I always notice how much longer Robert Patrick's hair is every time I watch this movie. It's just something that sticks out to me. I'm like, the T-1000 had a much cleaner haircut than that. But that's just obviously a personal thing. And then you get Rob Lowe in this movie, and I love him. And in the 90s, he really was a really good movie dick. You know, you had this and Tommy Boy.
Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers gotta hug.
Everyone always says how cool Rob Lowe is, and I always looked at him and was like, I kind of feel like the guy's kind of a dick. And then we finally get to Parks and Recreation, and I'm like, oh my god, I love this guy. He's definitely really funny. But they always cast him as the douchebag, like the guy who's always trying to get one over on someone. You got this and Tommy Boy, and he does such a good job in this. And there's a documentary on here talking about the making of this movie. It's a small little documentary, it's only 23 minutes. It just shows that he really is such a cool guy, Rob Lowe, how he's like dealing with, you know, Mike Myers has never actually made a movie, and he said that him and Mike Myers really built up this friendship from this movie, just like because they're helping each other out. Mike Myers came from TV while Rob Lowe came from making movies. So there's a difference in filmmaking, and I thought that was really cool. And he just does a great job in this movie as playing the character he's asked to play. You know, everyone does a great job in this movie. Is this the greatest film of all time? No, it's not. It's not even one of my favorite comedy films of all time, but this is one I go back to every couple of years. There's some great laughs in there. There's some all-time classic scenes that you've seen even if you never saw it, like that ad scene, or obviously the classic of the most classic scenes is Bohemian Rhapsody scene. From right after the opening credits when they're jamming out to it in the car, and that gave a rise to Bohemian Rhapsody and actually helped a lot of fans become fans of Queen. Actually, this is how I became a fan and became aware of Queen, was because of this, because I was like, that song is awesome. I have to find more of that, and I love Queen to this day, and it's all thanks to Wayne's World. So, and they weren't even supposed to actually get Queen for that. They were actually, I believe, supposed to do a Guns N' Roses song because that was around the time, I think, when the Use Your Illusions were coming out. So they wanted to get either some sort of Guns N' Roses song to have some kind of cross promotion. But Mike Myers fought. He said it's got to be Bohemian Rhapsody, and you know what? That was the perfect decision. That was the right way to go. I don't think any Guns N' Roses song could ever live up to what this scene created. So guys, it's a total recommendation as far as a film goes for me. I think Wayne's World is a classic. It's not one of my personal favorites, but it's still really funny. It's something, if you haven't seen it, you have to check out. It's like getting in a time machine going back 30 years and just seeing what the world was like and what people are like. And on top of all that, it's just a very good, well-directed film, and I think you're just going to really enjoy it. But we're also here to talk about its brand new 4K Blu-ray release from Paramount. Well, here it is, Wayne's World on 4K. I actually opted to grab the Steelbook, but there is a slipcover version of this available that you could get. I thought that the Steelbook actually looked really nice on this. I thought the orange really popped, and all the sayings that they say throughout the movie are all labeled and printed on top of that. So it's a very creative idea that they went for. If you look on the back, it's them again. You get more of the same, just a bunch of sayings and quotes that you see throughout the movie because swing, or party on Wayne, party on Garth. You know, those are some classic lines that you got. She's a babe. All throughout this movie that just people still say to this day, a 30-year-old movie. So then you pop it open. It's only one disc. That's disappointing again. And you get that Laverne and Shirley scene from in the middle of the movie when they go to the factory. So that's pretty classic. And like I said, it's only a one-disc set. So Paramount has been doing that lately where they only put one disc in there. They opted to drop the Blu-ray. It's only got the 4K disc, at least in this Steelbook. And that's really unfortunate because everything is crabbed onto that 4K disc. There is almost a complete lack of any new extras. Every extra that's on there has been released before. And the really only standout is a 123-minute documentary called Extreme Close-Up that's kind of showing the creation of this film. But it's a very old documentary. I believe it was actually filmed before Shrek came out. Because David Carvey, you know, he's like, oh, Mike Myers has had more success with Austin Powers, but he didn't even bring up the fact all the success he had with Shrek. So I think it was before 2001, but I could be wrong on that. Either way, or they're all a lot younger. So it's very upsetting that there is almost no new extras on there. But if the disc is good enough, it could save that. And the 4K transfer really is beautiful. That's something that Paramount has been doing great lately, is they have absolutely taken a big step forward, I think, in the visual department and making these films look visually stunning. The visuals are a huge upgrade from every version of this film I have ever seen. Now, I didn't actually have this on Blu-ray, but I have seen a Blu-ray version of this. I have seen it streamed, I've seen it on DVD, I've seen it on VHS, and this is the first time that this film actually looked gorgeous. You know, there's a lot of well-lit scenes in this. You know, the car is blue and orange, and now it just really pops off your screen when they go to the concert early in the film. There's a lot of like pink and like red lighting, and you can just see the lighting reflecting off of like Garth's hair or Wayne, like, you know, Wayne's skin, like, because now their skin looks real natural instead of looking like kind of flat, you know, just like what old movies used to look like. That's just how movies were. And now we're really kind of getting transported into this world now because the 4K visuals are just so stunning, and depending on the TV you watch it on, it's going to look even more stunning because this is in the 1.85 aspect ratio, so it's going to fill up that screen completely, and it's just something beautiful to look at. Now, there were a couple scenes where I don't know if there was just something kind of wrong with the lighting, but it kind of seemed like it was kind of going dark to light a little bit. Just for a few seconds. It might have been something off screen that I couldn't really tell, but it was a little bit distracting. But it's only in like one scene, and it's nothing that's too big of a deal. Definitely for the rest of the movie throughout, it's beautiful looking. I have almost zero complaints about the visuals. I thought they did a great job on this transfer. It's going to be the definitive edition of this. Like I said, it's just the extras thing that really does take me out. but visually, this is the best way to see this by far. You're going to be blown away, especially if you are a fan of Wayne's World. You're going to want to see this just because it's just the best looking version of this film available to you. So yeah, so the visuals, actually there is Dolby Vision over this, and the Dolby Vision I think really does do amazing work. I think the Dolby Vision actually really does help to enhance the visuals. Everything was bright enough, nothing was too dark, the blacks and whites really contrasted together really well. I really just can't say too many bad things about the actual visual transfer. I thought they did a great job, and I really do think that, you know, Paramount always seems to have Dolby Vision on a lot of their stuff, which I believe is the superior HDR, even over HDR10, but we've been proven many times that it's still possible to get some great visuals even with HDR10, but seeing Dolby Vision and seeing what it does really does help to enhance the film, especially visually. And then audio-wise, you get a Dolby Atmos track on here, which for a movie that features a lot of great music like Bohemian Rhapsody, Feed My Frankenstein, plus many more other rock songs, and they're playing music in this, you're going to want a Dolby Atmos track, and I think they did a pretty good job of making good use of all my speakers. Everything was clear, everything was mixed correctly. There was never points where there was like shoot ups in volume where the music was overpowering the dialogue, or you had to lower it just because it got too loud at points and then the dialogue is too low. No, everything felt even across the board. I thought they did a great job. The only thing is, I didn't feel like it was much bass heavy as I was expecting, and I actually ended up turning up the sound a little bit on my subwoofer just to make it sound a little bit higher, but I still do think that they did a great job on it. It's not the best Dolby Atmos track I've ever heard. You know, I don't even know if it's even in the top 10 best Atmos tracks I've ever heard, but it's still pretty solid, it's still pretty good, and I think it definitely works well with the film, and you can tell that there was a lot of effort into making this Dolby Atmos track sound pretty good. Now, overall, with that beautiful packaging, with that huge visual upgrade, I do think that this is worth your money. I believe it's going for $21.99 right now, which is not bad if you're not going to include that Blu-ray disc, because that's been my biggest complaint. If you're going to pull out that Blu-ray disc, I think you should drop the price of it, because you know what? You're only getting one disc with a complete lack of extras. So $21.99 for a brand new 4K does seem like it's worth it. That's also for the slipcover version. That's the entry level to this 4K is with that. And I think that's fair. I think that's pretty fair for a one disc set, because movies used to always go for like $19.99 when they were first released. And yeah, this isn't a brand new movie, but this is a brand new scan for one disc, one brand new visual upgrade with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos with pretty good packaging, because that slipcover packaging is nice. I do think that it's probably worth that price, but again, it's Paramount, it's a studio release. We're coming up on Black Friday, we're coming up on Christmas, Cyber Monday. There is a good chance that this could even drop down into the $15 to $19 range. I'm not 100% sure on that. A lot of studio releases around this time of the year, even new releases, sometimes do get a little bit of a dip in price. Don't expect like a $10 one, but you might see $1 or $2 off. And I think for something that's this visually stimulating, I do think that it's definitely worth that price. If you can get that, it would be a steal. But it's all also going to come down to how much of a fan of Wayne's World are you. Do you want to wait for Wayne's World 2 to come to 4K if it comes to 4K? Because I know that's why Matt didn't pick this up, because it was only Wayne's World 1, and he has Wayne's World 1 and 2 in a pack, and he just didn't want to get it without Wayne's World 2. He feels very happy with his Blu-ray. So it's really going to come down to what you want, what your personal preference is. I really wanted this 4K Steelbook. I'm very happy I got it. Like I said, I think it's beautiful looking as far as packaging goes. Audio-visual, definitely great. Extras, completely lacking, but other than that, it is overall a great solid package that I'm really happy that I got. So overall, what would I give this out of 10? I'm going to give this a pretty solid 8 out of 10. A lot of people did a lot of effort to make this look as good as it does, sound as good as it does, and I'm really happy that I own it. And if you are a fan of Wayne's World, you're going to be very happy that you picked this up. So anyway, guys, party on. If you want to grab this, we're going to leave our Amazon affiliate link in the description below, and you can grab it through there. It's no extra cost to you, and it really does help the channel out. And another thing that helps the channel out is you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and telling all your friends.